Your grandfather bought a house, raised 3 kids, and still had money left over at the end of the month. He did it all on one salary from a factory job. Today you need 2 college degrees, 2 full-time jobs, and you still wonder if you can afford 1 child. This is not a personal failure. This is the greatest economic betrayal in modern American history. And if you feel like you are drowning while doing everything right, you are not imagining it. The numbers prove that the entire game changed while everyone pretended it stayed the same. Let me paint you a picture of what normal looked like before the 1990s. Your grandfather graduated high school, walked into a manufacturing plant, and got hired on the spot. No college degree required. No unpaid internships. No gig economy hustle. Just a steady job with benefits. That factory job paid him enough to buy a house within 5 years. Not a mansion. A modest 3-bedroom home with a backyard where the kids could play. The mortgage payment was about a quarter of his monthly income. 1/4. Let that sink in for a moment. His wife stayed home with the kids. Not because she was trapped or had no choice, but because the family could actually afford it. One income covered the mortgage, the car payment, groceries, clothes, and they still went on vacation every summer. That was considered normal middle-class life. The family station wagon was paid off in 3 years. Healthcare was covered by his job, and it actually covered things. When the kids got sick, they went to the doctor. No one had to choose between medicine and groceries. Medical bankruptcy was not even a concept people worried about. Now fast forward to today. You have a college degree, maybe 2. You worked unpaid internships, just to get your foot in the door. You finally landed a decent job after sending out hundreds of applications. You feel like you should be winning, but you are barely surviving. You and your partner both work full-time, sometimes more than full-time. You bring home 2 incomes, 2 college-educated professionals working 50-hour weeks, and you look at your bank account at the end of the month and wonder where all the money went. Something feels deeply wrong. You think about buying a house, and you start doing the math. The average home in your area costs 7 times your annual salary. 7 times. Your grandfather bought his house for 2.5 times his annual salary. You would need to save for 15 years just for a down payment. So you rent, and the rent keeps going up. Every year the landlord raises it by another $100 or $200. You are paying someone else's mortgage and building someone else's wealth, while your own savings account stays frozen. The dream of ownership feels like a cruel joke from another era. You think about having kids and the fear hits you like a wave. Not the emotional fear of parenthood. The financial terror. You run the numbers. Childcare costs $15,000 a year per child. That is almost as much as college tuition for a toddler to play with blocks. Your health insurance premium is $600 a month, and that is with your employer covering part of it. You still have a $5,000 deductible before insurance pays for anything. One hospital visit could wipe out your emergency fund. You are 1 accident away from financial catastrophe. You have student loans. $30,000. Maybe 50. Maybe more. You have been paying them for years, and the balance barely moved because of interest. This is money your grandparents never had to borrow. College used to cost almost nothing. Some state schools were completely free. You look at old family photos from the 60s and 70s. Everyone looks relaxed. They are having backyard barbecues, taking road trips, smiling. Not because life was perfect, but because they had breathing room. Financial breathing room. The kind that lets you actually live instead of just survive. And here is the part that should make you furious. American workers today are more productive than ever in history. We produce more value per hour than workers in the 1970s. Technology made us faster, better, more efficient. Productivity has gone up by over 70% since 1979. So if workers are producing 70% more value, their pay should have gone up by 70% too, right? That would be fair. That would make sense. Except that is not what happened. Wages adjusted for inflation have barely moved at all. Maybe 18% over 45 years. Let me say that again, because it is the key to everything. Productivity up 70%, wages up 18%. Where did the other 52% go? It did not vanish into thin air. Someone got that money. Just not you. Just not the people who actually did the work. Now let us talk about housing. Because this is where the betrayal gets personal. In 1970, the median home price in America was $17,000. Adjusted for inflation, that would be about $130,000 in today's money. Reasonable. Achievable. Within reach for a working family. Today, the median home price is over $400,000. That is 3 times what it should be if it had just kept pace with inflation. Housing did not get 3 times better. Houses did not get 3 times bigger. The market just decided to price out an entire generation, and it gets worse. Investment firms started buying up homes by the thousands, not to live in, to rent out, to turn housing into a profit machine. Homes stopped being places where families build lives. They became financial instruments, assets to extract wealth from people who just need a place to sleep. Zoning laws kept supply artificially low. Neighborhoods fought against new construction because they wanted their property values to keep rising. And they did rise. But every time a homeowner celebrated their rising equity, they were celebrating the fact that their children would never be able to afford a home. Then there is healthcare. Your grandfather's factory job came with real health insurance. When he went to the doctor, he paid maybe $5. When your grandmother had a baby, the hospital bill was under $100. Insurance covered everything else. Medical debt was not a thing that destroyed families. Today, the average family health insurance premium is over $22,000 a year. Even with employer coverage, you still pay $6,000 or $7,000 out of pocket. Then you have deductibles, copays, costs that insurance just refuses to cover. Medical bankruptcy is now the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in America. People die because they ration insulin. They skip doctor visits because they cannot afford the bill. They ignore symptoms until it becomes an emergency, and then the emergency costs 10 times more. This is not healthcare. This is a wealth extraction system disguised as medicine and college. Your grandparents probably did not go to college, but if they had wanted to, they could have afforded it. State universities charged a few $100s a year. Some states like California had completely free tuition. A student could work a part-time summer job and pay for their whole year. Today, the average student graduates with $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. Some have $100,000 or more. They are 22 years old and already underwater, already starting their adult life in a hole they did not dig. This debt follows them for decades, crushing any chance of building wealth. Now here is a cruel twist that nobody talks about. When one parent stayed home in the 1960s and 70s, childcare was free, built into the family structure. But once both parents had to work, suddenly families needed daycare, and daycare costs exploded because they could charge it. The average cost of childcare today is $15,000 per year for one child. If you have 2 kids, that is $30,000. Many families find that the second income is almost entirely consumed by childcare costs. You work full-time just to pay someone else to watch your kids. So families need 2 incomes to survive. But the second income gets eaten by childcare. It is a trap with no escape. You cannot afford to work, and you cannot afford not to work. And all the while someone else is profiting from your impossible situation. This did not happen by accident. In the 1980s, something fundamental changed in how companies operated. Before that, businesses believed they had responsibilities to workers, communities, and shareholders. It was called stakeholder capitalism. Everyone got a piece. Everyone benefited when the company did well. Then came the shareholder revolution. Suddenly, the only thing that mattered was stock price, maximizing returns for investors. Everything else could be sacrificed. Worker pay, benefits, job security, communities. All of it became expendable in service of higher quarterly earnings and bigger dividends. Unions used to protect workers. In the 1950s, about 35% of workers belonged to unions. Unions fought for raises, pensions, healthcare, and safe conditions. They gave workers a seat at the table. They gave workers power to push back, and corporations hated them for it. So corporations spent decades breaking unions. They lobbied for laws that made organizing harder. They fired union leaders. They moved factories to states with weaker labor laws. They shipped jobs overseas where workers had no protections at all. Today, union membership is under 11%. The power is gone. Without unions, workers lost their leverage. Wages stagnated. Pensions disappeared. Healthcare got worse. Job security vanished. Companies started hiring temps and contractors instead of full-time employees. No benefits, no stability, just endless precarious work with no promise of tomorrow. The gig economy is the final insult. They call you an independent contractor, so they do not have to pay benefits. You drive for apps, deliver food, work by the job, and they tell you that you are your own boss. But you have no power to set rates, no benefits, no security, just the illusion of freedom. And then the government made it worse. In the 1980s, taxes on the wealthy were slashed. The top rate went from 70% to under 30%. The theory was the money would trickle down, the rich would invest it, create jobs, everyone would benefit. That was the promise. The money did not trickle down. It pooled at the top. Billionaires got richer. CEOs got richer. Shareholders got richer. Workers got nothing. Wages stayed flat. Infrastructure crumbled. Public services were cut. The wealth just concentrated upward, while everyone else was told to work harder. Deregulation. Let companies do whatever they wanted. Banks took massive risks. Millions lost their homes, their savings, their jobs, and the banks got bailed out. The executives kept their bonuses. Ordinary people got nothing. Just lectures about personal responsibility. The minimum wage used to be a living wage. In 1968, it had the buying power of about $12 an hour in today's money. Today, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25. It has not moved in over a decade. You cannot rent a one-bedroom apartment anywhere in America on that wage. Trade deals shipped millions of manufacturing jobs overseas. The jobs that used to be the backbone of the middle class. Good-paying jobs with benefits and pensions. They went to countries where workers made $2 an hour, and American workers were told to retrain for jobs that did not exist. So if you feel like you are failing, you need to understand something. You are not failing. The system failed you. These were not accidents. These were choices. Policy choices. Corporate choices. Deliberate decisions that redistributed wealth upward while pretending everything was fine. And then came the ultimate insult. They blamed you. Personal finance gurus told you to skip the daily coffee, cut back on avocado toast, stop eating out, budget better, as if your financial struggles were caused by occasional small luxuries and not by wages that have not moved in 40 years. They said you wanted too much, that you were entitled, that previous generations worked harder, but you are not asking for luxuries. You are asking for what was considered basic middle-class life, a home, healthcare, the ability to raise kids without terror. That is not entitlement. That was normal. The narrative shifted from asking why the system stopped providing basic security to asking why you are not hustling hard enough. Get a side gig, monetize your hobby, work 70 hours a week, and if you burn out, that is your fault too. You just did not want it enough. Now here is a complicated truth. Women entering the workforce was a good thing. It gave women choices, independence, the ability to build careers and lives on their own terms. That freedom mattered. That progress mattered. But something else happened at the same time that twisted it. When millions of women entered the workforce, household incomes doubled, and the market noticed. Housing prices adjusted upward. The cost of everything adjusted upward. Prices recalibrated to absorb that second income. What started as choice and liberation slowly became mandatory for economic survival. Now families need two incomes just to achieve what one income used to provide. Women gained workplace equality, but families lost the option of having one parent home. Both parents working became the only way to keep up. Freedom turned into a trap when the system adjusted to require it. And retirement. Your grandparents had pensions, defined benefit plans. Work 30 years, retire with a guaranteed income for life. The company took care of you. That was the deal. You gave them your working years. They gave you security in your old age. Then companies decided pensions were too expensive. They switched to 401k plans. Now you are responsible for your own retirement. You have to save, invest, hope the market does not crash right before you retire. All the risk shifted from companies to workers. They called it empowerment. It was abandonment. Social Security might not be there when you retire, or it will be reduced. The retirement age keeps rising. You will probably work into your 70s, maybe longer. The golden years, they promised your grandparents, are not promised to you. Just more work, more uncertainty, more fear. But here's what gets lost in all the financial talk. The real cost is not just money. It is time. When both parents work 50-hour weeks, who raises the kids? Who coaches Little League? Who makes dinner? Who has energy for anything beyond survival? Families see each other less. Parents are exhausted. Kids grow up in aftercare programs. There is no time for community, no time for hobbies, no time to rest. The human cost of this economic system is measured in broken relationships and constant exhaustion. Then credit cards became the bridge. When wages stopped rising in the 1980s, banks started pushing credit cards hard. Buy now, pay later. Keep up your lifestyle. Do not worry about the interest. And people did because they had to. They had to maintain some version of normal life. Now the average household has over $6,000 in credit card debt. Student loans average $40,000. Medical debt can be tens of thousands. Car loans, mortgages. Americans are drowning in debt. Not because they are irresponsible, because debt became the only way to bridge the gap between wages and costs. This created a permanent debtor class. People who can never get ahead because they are always paying interest. Always trying to climb out of a hole. Banks and lenders profit from this struggle. They make billions off people who are just trying to survive. It is extraction disguised as assistance. So where did all the money go? Follow the money, and you will find it. Corporate profits are at record highs. The stock market keeps hitting new peaks. CEO pay has increased by over 1,000%. Worker pay increased by 18%. 1,000 versus 18. The billionaire class barely existed 40 years ago. Now we have hundreds of billionaires. Some are worth over 100 billion. That wealth came from somewhere. It came from productivity gains that workers created but never shared in. It came from you, from your labor, from your stagnant wages. Income inequality is worse now than during the Gilded Age. The top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This is not a natural outcome. This is not how markets work when they are fair. This is the result of policy choices that favored the rich at everyone else's expense. But here is why understanding all of this matters. When you realize this is systemic, you stop blaming yourself. The shame lifts, the guilt fades. You are not failing because you are lazy or stupid or making bad choices. You are struggling because the entire system was redesigned to extract from you. Knowledge is power. Now you know what happened. You can stop accepting the narratives that blame you. You can demand better, whether through policy advocacy, supporting unions, making different choices, or just refusing to internalize the shame. You can push back with clarity about what is actually broken. This is not about returning to the 1950s. That era had deep problems, especially for women and minorities. But we can demand an economy that serves working families instead of extracting from them. The question is not why can't you make it work. The question is why did we let them break it?